Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project and the host of this podcast. The Swan Song Project is a charity. We help people living with terrible illnesses or dealing with bereavement to write and record their own original songs. We believe in celebrating lives, making memories and leaving legacies. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can check out our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The podcast features songwriters, and each week I have a different guest. I ask them to share with us one of their songs. We talk about how they wrote it. We ask them to share with us a songwriting tip, and I also ask them to share a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. This episode features Michael Messer. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, today I'm here with Michael Messer. Thanks for joining me, Michael.
Good to be here, Ben. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to talking to you. So this is the Swan Song Project Podcast. For anyone who's new to them, we do these in 3 parts. Each week I have a different songwriter on, and we're going to have one of their songs. We're going to talk a little bit about how they wrote it. Section 2, Michael's going to share with us a songwriting tip. And then Section 3, we're going to talk about a song that's meaningful to Michael in some way relating to bereavement. So I'll ask you to introduce your song for us, please, Michael.
Well, the song I brought was a song I actually didn't write, but it's a song I had a big part in creating, and I'll explain why. For 25, 30 years, I had a relationship with a songwriter friend of mine, a professional relationship, where we wrote many songs together, and also he wrote for me. Terry Clark was his name, and he died last April. Not COVID related, but he died last April, sadly. I thought it would be a good, since lockdown, I haven't been able to do anything as a tribute to Terry. I haven't, I would have done a gig, I would have done something. And when you said to me, can we talk about songwriting? I thought, well, this is a perfect time to talk about something that I did with Terry. So this is an old song. This song's called King Guitar. And it goes back to 1996. Terry wrote this. I kind of threw the ideas at him. I was working on an album, and there were a few things came together. Terry had a great way of understanding me and writing things about my life that I told him, a story that I might have told him, or a color I like to wear, or anything, just whatever. But it would relate to me, so it would come out of this as if I'd written it. And at the time, I'd been listening to a record I really liked at the time, which was G Love and the Special Sauce, blues music, where he talks a lot about, he quotes musicians' names that he's really into, Lead Belly and this, that, and I really like that. And I was talking to Terry on the phone one day about that song. I was saying, it's really cool the way he does that. And I said, we were also looking for album titles and song titles, and I said, I love those cliche blues albums, King of the Slide Guitar, King of the Blues, Empress of the Blues, they've all got those names, right? And he just came, he said, I love those too, man. And about an hour later, the phone rang. He said, listen to this, I've got this great idea. It's called King Guitar, which is just flipping that round, this King of the Slide Guitar to King Guitar. And he'd kind of come up with this way of bringing those elements that we talked about. And of course, within it, we also, both of us love, Texan music, Liverpool, the Beatles. A lot of different elements came together to make this song. And I recorded it first in August 96. It went on an album called National Avenue, which is also a line from the song. National Avenue was a place that my brother who lives in America had been to, and said, hey, this is a National Avenue, that'd be perfect for you because I play national guitars. So all these things came together. It came out on an album called National Avenue in 1996. The album the record company mishandled it completely, and the album did nothing. In 2001, it came out again as an album called King Guitar, which was a compilation album. And this was the lead track, and it was also the title track of the album. And that's 20 years ago. And just short, in May 2001, which is almost 20 years ago now, it was a #1 album in the blues charts in America. So the song finally found its way through. So that was a great thing. The best way to explain the song is to hear the song. This is King Guitar.
All down National Avenue, out in the yard, the pawnbroker blues. Fading wine, nailed on a door, stand forward to the bar on the kitchen floor. From Memphis to Liverpool, fool for the beat is a fool, is a fool. Meet you, baby, on the first downbeat. There's a rock in your hips and a roll in your feet. The world turns to King Guitar, walks and talks and lives and dies, loves and laughs and hurts and cries. The world turns to King Guitar. Blind Lemon's Matchbox and Black Snake Moan, late at night when the girls are gone. Johnny the Moondog, Mersey Piston, King Sunny and a synchro system. Bob Marley, Buddy Holly, Tampa Red and a S.E. Rogie, palm wine and turpentine. Oh, you drink that stuff in a 4/4 time. The world turns to King Guitar, walks and talks and lives and dies, loves and laughs and hurts and cries. The world turns to King Guitar. Buchanan, Lonnie Mack, Stevie Cropper, the king of stacks, Keith Richards and Pop Staples, Jimmy Vaughn and Jesse Taylor, Lonnie Johnson, Guitar Slim, Howlin' Wolf with Hubert Sumlin, B.B. King and John Lee Hooker, Johnny Winter, John Hammond Jr. The world turns to King Guitar, walks and talks and lives and dies, loves and laughs and hurts and cries. The world turns to King Guitar. The world turns to King Guitar, walks and talks and lives and dies, loves and laughs and hurts and cries. The world turns to King Guitar.
Okay, fantastic. So that was King Guitar by Malcolm Messer. Yeah, it's a great track. Really like it, and I really like the you saying about wanting to have some kind of tribute to Terry and this being a good chance to do it.
Well, it's important for me to do it.
Yeah,
and songwriters often, people who write behind an artist. Sometimes I say, their names are not known, and people don't realise who wrote these songs. So it's always been important to me that people know who wrote the songs. But now he's gone, it's more important for me to say, no, this was Terry's song. Terry did this, And we've got, as I say, 40 songs across quite a few albums that Terry either wrote for me or with me.
How did that process work then, if you was working together? What was the collaborative process? You mentioned a bit before about it, but was there a particular way you would normally work, or would it vary song to song?
It was very much however it came at the time. We would talk a lot on the phone as friends, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm trying to get this song, but that kind of stuff. And ideas would come that way. Sometimes, I can think of a couple of songs where he'd call me at the studio. I was making an album. He'd call me at the studio to say, hey, can I come over? What are you doing? Can I come and hang out for the afternoon? Yeah, come and hang out, And by the time he'd arrived, hey, listen, look, I've got this. And oh, come on, I've got to record that. That's brilliant, Terry. Come on. So there wasn't a process of that I would say was a formula. but the formula was friendship.
Mm.
And Terry having that, he was very prolific, as a lot of songwriters are. So he had that kind of Tin Pan Alley approach. He could just song, next. And he could take things that I'd told him about myself or about an experience, you know, hey, I was out this morning and I was in the supermarket and I bought some baked beans. Oh, I love those baked beans, that kind of thing. And a song would come back where it would be in one of the verses. Oh, well, that's pretty cool, Terry. How did you get that? Oh, you know, you were telling me the other day about how you know. So it was very much, I'd say, came through friendship, you know. And I think that most of the songwriting partnerships, although it wasn't totally a songwriting partnership as such, because a lot of it was written for me, although I would change the music quite a lot, I would change things to make them become mine. I don't think there is a formula, you know. I don't think Lennon and McCartney had a formula. They just knew each other and loved each other, and it worked. You know, they could read each other. And I think that's the way that works, you know. And I think it's a really good way to be creative within songwriting. That ideas get churned around, and two minds, if you like, can be better than one, and bringing ideas together, you know. I'm, you know, I write songs. Yeah, I'm writing at the moment for a project. I'm not as prolific as a songwriter as such, but I guess I am a writer because I write songs, and I'm in the middle of writing some at the moment. Do I have a formula? Yeah, my formula is put something on the paper. Don't leave it blank, because then you just keep staring at it, don't you? Yes. I think that's, for any writer, what they call writer's block is possibly true. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I like to come out of the music with an idea. Sometimes it's the lyric. Sometimes it can come from listening to somebody else's song. So, you know, you get an earworm of someone else's song, and the more it goes around in your head, suddenly you think, hey, hang on a minute. I could do this, and this, and then that's, oh, that's really good. That fits with my idea. So it can come that way. I think of writing instrumentals, because I guess I'm known primarily as a guitarist rather than a writer as such. So the writing of instrumentals to me is the same as the writing of lyrics. And I think of them in the same way, bringing ideas together, bringing melodies together that come from bringing things together. I used to work with a songwriter many years ago, Ted Hawkins, and he used to say that he was a Frankenstein of songwriting. So he would take a little piece of this one, and a little piece of this one, and a little piece of this one. I'd sew them all together, and then I'd pull that lever to bring the lightning on, and I've got my own song. You know, and that's also a very interesting way of working.
Yeah, I've heard a similar. I like the Frankenstein metaphor. I've not heard that one before. I've heard a similar one of you, like fixing up a car, and you might take a part from another one, and you might take a part from this one, and eventually try and get something what runs.
Absolutely, and if that's done in the way he used to do it would be, you'd almost feel like you'd heard it before. You couldn't say, hey, you took that from so-and-so. You couldn't do that, but you'd like, I sort of know this melody, the whole mood, but I don't. And that's really interesting.
Yeah. That right amount of familiarity.
Yeah. I over my career, I've worked with a lot of very talented songwriters, you know, and I've learned from all of those people the different ways of approaching it and different ways they approach it. You know, songwriting is the interesting thing I find as well is that most songwriters, they're not poets as such. It's a different art form. You know, the writing of a poem is totally different to singing a song. It's because the way that you it can be about the way those words hang together over music, and it doesn't even necessarily need to make sense. if the words hang together really well, then it can sound amazing. You know,
it's like the music can just bring out such an extra meaning sometimes. Sometimes the songs that I've really loved listening to, then I'll look at the lyrics and I'm always disappointed when I read the lyrics without the music. Because you're like,
I get that a lot.
If I just read that, I wouldn't be that impressed. But when I heard the song, it's like it just
that happens a lot. I mean, one of my favorites of those kind of songs is Paul McCartney doing That Would Be Something, right? There is nothing to it. There's 3 lines, but it's so good. That would be something, really would be something. That would be something. To meet you in the falling rain, mama, meet you in the falling rain. That would be something, really would be something. That would be something. To meet you in the falling rain, mama, meet you in the falling rain. Meet you in the falling rain, mama, meet you in the falling rain. It's just a little piece of it, but it's nothing else to it. That just goes round and round. And it's beautiful. It's like, oh God, I mean, it's so simple, you know. But and when you listen to it, you're not necessarily thinking, oh, he's only saying the same 3 lines over and over and over. But if you look at it on paper, it's like, is that it? Another writer that Buddy Holly can do that to you. You know, his songs, some of them, to hear them, like, wow, that's amazing. And then, oh, I must learn that song. So you write it down. Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Songwriting, that's brilliant songwriting, isn't it?
The magic of it, isn't it? And I think there's a lot of crossover. Some of the stuff that we were talking about Swan Song before we started, which kind of links to what it sounds like your relationship with Terry was. I really liked what you said about the formula being friendship. I think I've not heard it put that way before. I think that's a really nice way of putting it. Like, you know, like those close connections bring out, that's where the ideas come from a lot of time, isn't it? Like if you try and force your ideas to come out, it's like you're not going to get them. But when you're relaxed in good company and you're just letting things flow, and then having someone else to let you know sometimes when they hear something that would make a good idea, because a lot of the time we can, I guess part of the aim of being a songwriter is being able to spot those ideas. But when you've got someone else who's in that shared thing with you, they can, pick up those things you're saying that make for good lyrical content.
Totally. You can't force it. That is what you said is really good there, because if you try and force it, it doesn't come out. You have to flow, be yourself, let it just. And if it's not coming, just leave it. Yeah. You know, the people that fascinate me are those people that can get up at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever, so sit down and write a song. You know, Goffin and King and those people, the Brill Building writers and those kind of, they just get up and write a song. Next. And they're not all great. We only hear the great ones, you know, but they still do it all the time. Next. And that's an amazing, yeah. But it's through friendship, that partnership of writers. I think if we looked at any songwriting team, if you like, that it comes that way, you know.
Would you and Terry have like things set out, like things that you were aiming for, like you're going to write an album with songs in a certain style or anything like that, or would it just be that they would just come and they would just, the albums would come together naturally, or would you set out to write particular things?
Both. We did work in that way where we did. I would come up with ideas where I would definitely steer the idea if he was writing for me. If we were writing ideas together, sometimes I would have a chorus or I'd have a bunch of lines that didn't really hang together, but there's something going on here. And I just sort of say, there you go, you sorted it out. You're the songwriter. There you go. And he might not, you might just use one of them, but something would come back. Oh, this is, I can think of one that we wrote that way on an album I did in 1995, album called Moonbeat, did a song called Jawbone Johnny. And I had this thing about Jawbone Johnny with Jitterbug Swing. And it was kind of a little chorus thing I had. And that was pretty much all I had, was that Jawbone Johnny had the Jitterbug Swing. And this whole thing came back. I gave that to Terry with a bit of a melody and a bit of an idea. And he was able to say, oh yeah, I can see him. I know who Jawbone Johnny is. And I know what he looks like. I know what he wears. I know where he goes. And he came back with this whole song about Jawbone Johnny. And I think that actually what I just said there is also something I think is quite important, is that you need to know if you're writing about that beautiful girl you see at the bus stop every day when you're going to work, you need to start thinking about who she is. Where does she live? What's in her handbag? What perfume does she wear? Where does she go for lunch? Where did she buy that dress? That kind of stuff. So that you can kind of go into that. Whatever it is, it might be about a guitar. What's that guitar made of? How old is it? How many strings has it got? You kind of have to find your way in, don't you?
Yeah, I think getting that kind of detail is a song we're going to talk about later on. That's Lucinda Williams track we're going to talk about, that she's an expert at that, and the song you chose is a great example of having songs that are full of detail and so they just feel so real. And I think that's a great piece of advice for people writing a song, if it's about a guitar, think about every aspect of that guitar. If it's about a person, think about every aspect of that person. Don't just think about I've heard of iceberg theory, they call it. I think this is more of like a literary idea, but the idea that what you get in the art is the tip of the iceberg, and what the writer has thought about is the iceberg underneath.
Yeah, that's good. The iceberg, yeah. But that was said to me a long time ago by someone about songwriting. Just whatever it is, get to know everything about it, and think about who is it, where is it from, what is it, why, what does it smell like, what does it taste like, what is it, all of that, and that is right. That brings out that's how you write about someone or something, isn't it? Yeah.
Was Terry a performer himself?
Oh yeah. Terry made a lot of albums and he performed. He was a great artist, very talented singer-songwriter. Yeah, very, very much so. Who made a dozen or so albums, and would have been right up your street to talk on this show. Very much a prolific songwriter. He was 71 when he died last year, so he kind of came up through the teenager through the 50s and 60s, and very much grew up on rock and roll and that sort of area. He also had a very different, what I liked about working with him, apart from it wasn't just the friendship, it was that I actually loved the way that he came at things, because I work in an area, the blues, which if you're not careful can be very cliche. And he would write in a way that wasn't cliche. So he would sometimes use the cliches, but twist them, a bit like I was saying with the title of King Guitar. And that, I found that really cool and really an interesting way of approaching. You got to be very careful with the blues, you don't end up, I got the blues, man, it's like, yeah, we all know that bit, but can we go somewhere else with it? But if you can incorporate that in and come at it from another angle, then it becomes very interesting. And Terry had a great way of doing that. He had different reference points to me. So if we're talking blues, I might be talking about Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters, where he's thinking totally different artists, but he's hearing he might be thinking about Johnny Cash. and how he would write a blues, or how. So coming at it from a different approach.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, and I think that creates great songs, great,
Did you what was it like when you first started working together? What was kind of interesting is how you knew that he was a good person to work with. 'Cause I think that's kind of a common. I know lots of musician friends who have really struggled to find someone who, as you say, kind of complements each other in that way, that you both kind of know the stuff you're aiming for, but bring those different angles to it.
That's a good question. Well, we were friends, not from way back before that, but we became friends around the time we started working together. We both were in the same area. Terry was from Reading, and I'm nearby there, and we both had many mutual friends, and by coincidence, we both signed to the same label for our first sort of releases. My first album wasn't his first, but it was his first into this world of rootsy kind of music. And we both signed to the same label. So it was advantageous to both of us and to the label that we worked together. I was making my second album, Slide Dance, and Terry had one song. And I think we were talking about, forget how it came about now that we actually ended up recording it, but Terry had one song that I recorded on that album. 2 songs, I'm sorry. It started with one, then he came back with another. So there were 2 songs on that second album that Terry wrote. And then we both realized it was, hey, this is pretty cool. This is interesting creatively. It works very well because we're both on the same label. So the whole thing was in-house. We both like those in-house style labels where it all happened under one roof, the little record factory, Motown and Chess, and where it's the writers in one room and the drummers in another room, and everyone comes together to make the record. We both love that. And I think we realized that we had something that was very cool that worked. So that was the second album, Slide Dance. We did 2. Then we did an album together. Then we did an album called Rhythm Oil, which was myself, as the names on the cover were myself, Terry Clark, and Jesse Taylor, guitarist from Austin, Texas. Terry was very plugged into that Austin, Texas scene, Butch Hancock and Jimmy Dale Gilmore and Townes Van Zandt, all that kind of scene. And we made an album together called Rhythm Oil. Well, of course, now we're actually making an album together as the 3 artists. There's more songs start to appear. And I covered a couple of songs. I brought in Robert Johnson's Queen of Spades that we did as a band. And then after we'd done it, Terry said to me, I've got some great words that would fit over that, Let's not do it. Why don't we change what it is? I said, well, okay, what have you got? So it's kind of started to get more and more so. That was a big project for us, Rhythm Oil. We got very well received for it, and Johnny Cash wrote the sleeve notes for that record. I don't know if you've seen that on my website.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Johnny Cash wrote the sleeve notes, which was an incredible.
How did that come about then?
That came about. Hang on, let me come back to that one. So it was organic how we started writing. And then after that, I got an album deal with a new label called Appaloosa. Not new, but new to me, an Italian label. I did an album called Moonbeat. And it was at that point where we were both so into it that we said, well, let's just do the whole album like this. So either written for me or with me, the whole Moonbeat album were Terry and Michael songs. I think there's one cover on it. And it was a great way of working. It was a great way, and it went on, and we did other things, and yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're both very lucky to have that, to find that connection and that kind of partnership that works.
It was great. It was a wonderful thing. It had its time. We didn't do it for a while. For the last 10 years, we didn't do anything. Not because there were any problems, it just kind of, we just didn't. There was no big deal to it. It wasn't like, why aren't we writing together or working? It just, that's how it was. But it was a great thing, and we created some great work. You know. You asked me, the Johnny Cash thing. So my brother, Alan Messer, you may be aware, he's a photographer. And Alan, he lives in Nashville. And Alan's lived in Nashville for 43 years, since the late 70s. He's a music business photographer. Started in London around the swinging 60s scene, and then moved to Nashville in the 70s. He became close friends with John and June, Johnny Cash and June Carter. Became family friends and they kind of took him in as family, and also that meant taking in his family as family, being good Southern hospitable people that they were. And they were lovely, lovely people. They were great people. When we did this album, Alan, somehow, I forget exactly how, but Alan took the idea of, I think Alan played the album to John, just off of the cassette, and sort of maybe asked, I think maybe sort of, can you help in, you know, my brother's done this project with Jesse Taylor and Terry Clark. And anyway, John wrote these sleeve notes, and we ended up getting this handwritten thing written by John, which, and of course, what blew both of us away, especially Terry, because he was a fan, and B, what John had done was he'd taken bits of all the songs and written his own poem out of, so what you read in that, a lot of it is Terry's words that he's kind of pulled in and created his little poem, and then he talks about the album as a, you know, well, it was an incredible thing, and we definitely got drunk the night that we heard that, you know, and it was a wonderful thing he did for us, and yeah, I mean, he did it to help. He told me that. He said to me, you know, that it's a tough road you're on. This is a tough business, and if this helps you in your career, then use it. You know, and I hope it does, was how he treated it. And it was a wonderful thing. Yeah, it was. Yeah. You know, he'd only done it for two other people. He did Bob Dylan's Nashville Skyline, and I've never seen it, but he did one for Chris Christopherson. But that's the only sleeve notes he ever wrote.
Wow, yeah, what an honour. And that the handwritten thing's on your website, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
If people want to go and have a listen.
Yeah, it's on my wall upstairs, but it's on my website, yeah.
Brilliant.
And there's a little thing that's kind of gone on a little bit further now, is that when John died, his son, John Carter Cash, sent via Alan something to me, and he just said, I thought you might like this. And on John's desk, he had a cassette player where he listened to his music, you know, and in the cassette player was the tape that we'd given him of Rhythm On. It was in the cassette player on his desk. Mm-hmm. So he just still listened to it. It may have been one of the last things he heard. We don't know.
No.
It was quite amazing to get this thing, and like, really, this came. Oh yeah, it was on my dad's. You know, it was in my dad's cassette player on the desk.
Wow.
What an honour.
Yeah, amazing. That is, and how good of John to send it to you as well.
It was great. It was lovely that he did. Yeah, they're lovely people, the family, and John and June were very kind to my brother and to my family. You know.
It's great when you hear stories like that about such icons as well. Like they were such good people,
Yeah, they were lovely people, and away from being Johnny Cash, he was John, and he was a lovely man, a great sense of humour, and sort of treated my family almost like he was an uncle.
Yeah,
almost like that, you know. So yeah, it was a special thing. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, I recommend people go to your website and have a look at that handwritten
Yeah, I
note.
recommend look at that one. That's great. It's great, and I never use it as I don't use it for ego, or it was special. It was personal.
Yeah, something that'll always have special meaning.
It's just there, and it's there if anyone wants to see it. But I would never exploit it. I would never, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Michael. Yeah, thanks for sharing it with us. Let's move into section 2 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share with us a songwriting tip. So we've covered quite a lot of tips in the. When I first planned the podcast, I thought, it's been a nice clear tip, but there's always loads of tips in the first section.
Well, maybe I mean, I was talking before about instrumentals and things. Well, there's that's an interesting area, I think, and my songwriting tip of anything, as I say, I'm not a prolific writer. I am writing at the moment for an album that I'm working on. You've got to keep writing. You've got to keep putting stuff down. You mustn't force it. So don't force it. I mean, this any idea is the seed for something that could grow into, you don't know if you've just written the verse, the chorus, or something you won't use, but you just got to keep going. I quite like working from melody to come out of ideas, if not melody, to come out of musical ideas.
That's what I was going to ask you about when you're writing instrumentals. Do you work from musical ideas? Like with, say, if you're writing lyrics, you might write from a lyrical idea of like, I'm going to write a song about this thing that happened here, or this whatever. But when you're writing instrumentals, do you ever write them? Are they written about a particular thing in the way you might write lyrics about a thing, or are they more written around a musical idea?
I think for me, they're more written around a musical idea. I'm just trying to think. Mostly around musical ideas, and possibly you have a bit more freedom, or I have a bit more freedom to do what I was saying about Frankenstein type of songs. So, for example, I have one that was on my most recent album that we wrote, which was. Let me just drop this down a fraction so you can see the guitar. That's true. So I'd been messing around with some things. For example, I'd been messing around with some ideas that I had that I really, when whenever we pick up a guitar, we have a current kind of doodle that you do. And then every few months that changes, but you've always got something that you just gravitate to whenever you pick up a guitar, and everybody does it. So I had this thing I was doing, which from my mind was coming out of kind of that Tinariwen, the desert blues kind of thing from Mali, that kind of blues that's more major than minor, and kind of that North African. And I had this thing I was playing, whenever I picked up a guitar. And if that came in a North African song, it would have a vocal over the top. And then I started thinking that I'd wanted to put something with that wasn't that. So I kind of came up with these things of melodies that, like Raikuda maybe would come up with a kind of, and that's also kind of very country, like the way I'm playing that isn't very country, but if you put that if you play that like on a dobro this way up, suddenly it becomes, it's quite country. So I had this thing of going with this. And it built on that really, and it just and this album I did was with 2 Indian musicians, and then Manish, the Manish Pinglay, the Indian slide guitar player, brought an idea into that, which was because he said to me, "Oh, that's a raga that I know," and I said, "Now you're really confusing me, but go on." And he said, "Well, you're playing a raga called Bhupali." Am I? And he explained why, because of the choice of notes, the slide. Whoa, I missed it there. Because of the choice of notes and the way I was playing it. So we started working on this idea called Bhupali Blues, and that's where it developed. And so how did that instrumental? There was all kinds of things. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like you're saying. And then we brought into it things that I brought into it parts from other well-known tunes that like folk blues things. So there would be things like it came out of then a thing like that's kind of a melody of a lot of folk tunes. I found some. Then we did which is sort of like Bucka White's Jitterbug Swing. But it's also a fiddle. He gets it from. It's a fiddle thing. It's a real country fiddle thing. Of things come together to make that work.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? What I was
Yeah. It sounds like a good, interesting process.
But it's the same as writing lyrics, isn't it? It's the same. It's just how you
just communicating in a different language, the language of notes rather than the language of words.
Absolutely that. So it's exactly the same.
When you set out, do you set out writing an instrumental at the time? You like always. Are you always clear on like I'm going to write an instrumental now, or I'm going to write a song now, or does it just work itself out? Was it
not clear at all? No.
I was wondering like whether sometimes. I mean, I've never written instrumentals myself, but sometimes I'll come up with a piece of music that I like a little riff or a little progression in some way, and then my immediate instinct is always then I'll write some lyrics for this. But I wonder whether you do that at all, or whether it's always like
I do, but I also like to stop sometimes and say no, that's it. That is what it is.
It doesn't need any lyrics over the top.
Yeah. That's just fine as it is. Yeah. I mean that thing that I started with, I think I probably was starting that hypnotic trance kind of sound. Yeah, I was thinking song over the top of that to begin with. I can't remember now, but yeah. I like trance music. I like that thing that happens with music that one chord music, things that don't change chord, things that sit on a hypnotic groove. That's one of the things that attracted me about working with Indian musicians, is because Indian classical music sits on one chord. It doesn't use harmony; it only uses melody and rhythm, and that kind of it's very similar. Although it's not similar musically, it's very similar in theory to a lot of blues music, which sits on one chord. North Mississippi stuff, kind of which is why we did that kind of material together, because it works so well. Those kind of one chord blues things where you'll have a call and response, so the vocal sits over da, 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 da. That's very similar in theory to how kind of Indian music works, because there's just rhythm and melody happening. There's no harmony.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and is that album's out, is it?
Yeah, that's Call of the Blues. That's it's called Call of the Blues. That's although it's not that recent now, it's my current album.
And is it Michael Mess's Mitra?
Yeah. Hang on, I've got it here. Yeah, Michael Mess's Mitra. Somewhere here, I can show you a picture. Can I? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have walked away and done that. I thought I could find it. Yeah, Michael Mess's Mitra.
People can find it online anyway if they want to check it out. Yeah, I remember I've heard little bits of it. I've not heard the whole thing yet, but I remember thinking it sounded like a very interesting project, and I'd like to listen to
it was a great thing.
It
was a great thing, and yeah, we found a place where we could write together, be creative together, and make something that hadn't been done before.
That's brilliant.
Not intentionally so much as not, it was something I wanted to do for a long time. When I say not intentionally, I wasn't intentionally trying to find something that had never been done before. I was intentionally wanting to make blues music with Indian classical players, because I definitely always felt there was a place we could meet musically, and it's great. We've been touring together now we did 6 years on the trot. So until we got stopped by COVID, we had 6 years touring under our belts. So yeah, it's been a great run.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be too long before he's back out on the road.
Oof, I hope. Yeah, I hope. It's been a long year. It's now. I didn't do any gigs in the beginning of 2020. So my last gig was December 2019. So it's now 14 months since I did a gig.
That'd be the longest between gigs for you for a long time, I imagine.
It's a pretty strange feeling. Yeah. I play every day. I'm writing. I make sure I make music as much as I can. But it's strange not doing it for people, with people.
Yeah.
We're all finding that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be so interesting, so exciting when we can go out, and I can't imagine how emotional it's going to be to play songs in front of people, because that's the reason I got into music, was to play music with people. And like we did like a little session over Zoom with some friends around Christmas time, where like we all just played a few songs on here, and like that felt even just playing in front of my girlfriend singing, there's something special about when you're playing a song with someone else in the room, isn't there?
Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be emotional. What's happened to me, I was talking to someone the other day about it, is that playing music, we're now looking at over a year. Playing music has become something I do on my own in a room, and that's not natural. That's not natural for me.
Yeah,
I sit looking out the window and sing and play and do what I do and make sure I'm match fit. You have to be. Otherwise, when that gig does come, you can't do it. But it's a long time now. It's a long, long time, and I think it will be very emotional. I think it will be quite strange, But yeah, guys, please bring on the day that we can do it.
Yeah. Let's move into the last section now, shall we? This is where we talk about a song. I ask my guests for a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. And what I do here is I put the link in the description to the episode. So if you're not familiar with the song, you want to go check it out, you can do, follow that link, and we're going to have a chat about why Michael chose it. So what song did you choose for us for this section, Michael?
Well, I chose Lucinda Williams, from her album Car Wheels on a Gravel Road, and I've gone completely blank at the moment. The time I've gone for a second. Sorry, I was so thinking about the song. God, this is crazy. Lake Charles. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, do you know why? Because I was thinking about the song. Every time I think about that song, it just gets me. Just totally tears me out. Lake Charles was written by Lucinda about a friend who died, and it was written about her relationship with him and how she reacted and how she felt about the way he passed away. And I think that the chorus, every time I've lost anyone since then, I can't help but think about this song. And every time I hear this song, I'm stopped in my tracks. I just, did an angel whisper in your ear. I mean, it's just so beautiful. But yeah. Play the song. I don't know and everything about this song, the subject matter of it, the connection to the blues with Lucinda, because Lucinda's obviously, grew out of that love of blues music. Her relationship with this guy who definitely included the love of blues music. And every time every time I've known of anyone passing away from any kind of illness, actually, not just something, a terminal illness, a cancer or something. No, anytime anyone that's passed away, I think of that song. I lost my mother during last summer. She's not COVID related, it was age related, which she spent the last few days in a hospital on her own. We couldn't visit her. And yeah, this song just says everything you'd want to say about somebody in that, it's an amazing piece of writing.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Lucinda's work, always have been. From when she didn't write, when she was, singing country blues songs, I loved that. But as a writer, she's special. And this particular song, Lake Charles, well, as I say, it's an incredible song related to bereavement, about bereavement. And it's how somebody, we all say it, don't we, when someone is terminally ill, they're so brave. How do they, they always seem to smile, and we're the ones that are upset, and they're always smiling. And how they, and she seems to be able to put that into a little poem, if you like, a little song. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's an amazing choice. I'm very sorry to hear about your mum as well, Michael.
Thank you. She was 92. It's sad to lose your mum at any time. There's no whether you're 2 or 64, it's still the same. But the fact that we couldn't visit her because of COVID, that was a hard thing. And this song, as I say, I could only think about the chorus of this song.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that with this song. It's so beautifully put.
It's just like, we had a quick chat before we started recording about Lucinda Williams, and this album's one of my favorite albums of all time. It's just remarkable. The whole album, start to finish, is remarkable. But yeah, this track is very special, and it's one of the things that comes up a lot with songs where because it's very specific, isn't it? There's lots of detail about her relationship with this person, and driving around listening to Howlin' Wolf and all these really particular details. And there's something that comes up on the podcast all the time. If people listen to every episode, hear me going about this all the time about the specific details being the most universal in a way. So even though that song's very clearly about this person, that relationship, but the way she's talking about it in such detail allows other people to relate just on that detail level, even though the scenario is completely different.
Exactly, and that, I think that's a great point you've made, and it's a really important point in songwriting, in writing, in great, that kind of detail really, to you, it's like to you, things that you do in your life don't seem important, but it's the everyday normal things, like Lucinda's talking about. We used to listen to Howlin' Wolf in the car, and those are very normal things that we, and they're the things that we relate to. They are, because they're the normal everyday things that people do. And I love that in writing. I love that. And I can't think of any other examples at this moment, but there are many that I've always loved. And that goes back, well, I can, you go back into the blues and some of the early blues writers, you go back into like Charlie Patton. And Charlie Patton's, you can almost tell his address from what he's writing. He's talking about the street he lived in. He's talking about someone, he's talking about a person's name. And it's just someone that lives nearby called Ben, and someone, who lives at number 11. And that's in that song. And you'll hear that I love that detail. You hear it in Charlie Patton, you hear it in Robert Johnson. And when we hear it, we're removed from it, so you hear it slightly differently, but it's just them talking about what they do and what they did. And if you can get that down, if you can get that detail down of, I went shopping this morning and I bought some apples. If you can get that into your song, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the things where like it seems like it should be simpler. I think a lot of time people when they're writing a song, want it to be like a grand idea and something big, and that everyone will relate to and whereas like that should be the really hard thing. But one of the hardest things is to just write something specific, and then that's what often connects with more people.
There's a guy who works down the chip shops, wears his Elvis.
Yeah, great example. Yeah,
and I think punk and new wave opened some doors in that area for people to write. 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. And songs, not necessarily my favourite song, but it's interesting that you can get that in there and turn that into, oh, that's really cool that you can say that. That's great. Not a song that but I like the fact that people found a way of expressing themselves with those type of phrases and that type of use of language, just every day, what you say to a mate in a pub, what do you drink, mate? 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps.
Yeah, and again, it's that magic of good songwriting, being able to spot those things, whatever they are, whatever kind of format they come in, whatever kind of type of language it is, spotting the things that'll make them songs and bring them to life. Absolutely.
I can think of more now. I couldn't when we first started, but now I can think of many examples that Paul McCartney, Beatles did it in the early days, sitting on a sofa with a sister or two, coming home from, sitting on the sofa with your sister and a cup of tea, and it's all very normal, isn't it? Norwegian wood,
Yeah.
That girl who's flat upstairs is made of Norwegian wood. It's not about, it's not nothing romantic in that respect. It's not what your mind conjures up, which is Norway and trees. It's that she's got wood paneling in her flat, and that's wonderful. That's very normal, isn't it? That's very everyday is what I'm saying. Very, So I do like that in songwriting, and it's not an easy thing to find your way through, but it's really powerful when it's done well.
Yeah, definitely.
You say, Lucinda, and that particular line, that's got to be. Funnily enough, I printed out not all of the song just before we came on, but that particular line is just amazing, Yeah. We used to drive through Lafayette and Baton Rouge in a yellow El Camino, listening to Howlin' Wolf. He used to like to stop in Lake Charles because that's the place he loved.
Yeah, it's like...
that's just beautiful. And that chorus, did an angel whisper in your ear and hold you close and take away your fear in those long last moments?
It's just,
it's like Shelley or Keats, or that's like.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Michael. It's really nice talking to you.
No, I've enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed it. Yeah. Have you got anything else coming up that you want to mention when you're here?
Going in the other room. Tomorrow I might go upstairs.
Yeah.
Let's have some food. And that's about it for the next few months, I think.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's not too long before we're back out on the road. And
hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm working on an album project at the moment with a friend, so that's really good. and hopefully we can get out and get doing stuff again. But say you're the same, I'm sure. There's a lot of time at the moment.
Yeah, very strange
I
times.
try not to waste that time. I try to use it. Try to expand my knowledge, music, playing, practice, writing, anything, just to try and, when we do come out of it, I can look back and say, no, I used that time well. I feel I gained something in there, in that time.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Which for me is important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Good stuff. Yeah.
It's great what you're doing. And Lucinda Williams, Lake Charles.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'll put your links in the description as well, so anyone listening to this can check out your music and hear those albums we've been talking about today.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back with another episode soon.